All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Meathead University. I hope you all are doing well. Today, we are coming out with episode 4. We're going to talk about a few different topics. Shay, if you'd be able to, take the audience through what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure. In episode 4, we will be talking about deloads. So we're going to be talking about what is a deload, when to deload, like signs that you maybe need to deload because sometimes there can be multiple signs and maybe things that are more important to look out for than other things. Then we're going to talk about how to deload. There's kind of 2 ways that we're going to jump into, and then nutrition during a deload, so how you should be eating.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of the gist of today's episode.
Precisely. But first, we're going to talk about, catch up on our training, talk about how training's been going.
Yeah.
Shit like that. Would you like to start us off? How's your training been going?
Yeah, training for me has been going great, actually. I'm currently in my 4th week of my mesocycle, so volume is starting to increase a little higher. Probably only see myself going for another week, so 5 weeks, and then I'm going to take a deload, so kind of like today's topic. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. The necessity.
Yeah, but other than training, I've been getting stronger, and which is nice. My food's around 3,600 calories a day, and today I actually woke up at my highest weight, 182 pounds, which I have not been that heavy in like 6 months. So it's kind of cool to see
it's
that.
Been that long.
Yeah, it's been that long. Like
nice.
The last time I looked back at my weights that I track, and the last time I was 182 was like before February. So yeah, a little over 6 months ago.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was cool, and I'm staying relatively lean too as my weight's going up, my strength's going up, so I think everything's going the right way for my first meso of my like legit mass. So yeah, nothing to really complain about. How about you?
Are you prioritizing anything this mesocycle at all?
Yeah, kind of. I kind of had upper body prioritized, like I would say mainly back.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've kind of been pushing the volume on back out of everything. Like a little bit on chest too, but probably pushing volume up on back the most. But of course, we were kind of talking about this before the podcast. Like I find myself adding volume to like my squats and shit, and it's just like, why am I doing that?
Yeah,
and I'm just kind of adding unwanted fatigue for like no reason. And like my legs are supposed to be in the back burner anyways, but
yeah, like Shay said, we were talking about that before the podcast, and it's just like
there's just something about leg training.
Like, yeah, you just want to keep adding, and it just feels right to be doing something harder every week, especially on the hardest muscle group there is.
Yeah, and it's like getting that, like we were talking about that feeling of just like literally like wanting to cry just because you're so hyped up from training legs. Like, I don't know.
And so happy too, just the endorphins you get out of that
it's
shit,
crazy.
Dude.
So yeah, I find myself adding volume and intensity to my leg training when that wasn't the really goal, but
yeah,
it happens.
But hey,
I'm recovering too, so
exactly. Yeah. So maybe you're just kind of going a little above like MEV or whatever, which I think is totally
okay. Which is fine if it's not totally killing everything else. But yeah, how's your training going?
My training's also been going pretty well. I'm currently in week 2 of my mass phase back from vacation.
Sweet.
So yeah, last week was pretty rough. Not gonna lie, I was sore pretty much all week.
Yeah.
And for this mass cycle. Well, for this entire macro cycle, actually, I'm prioritizing upper body. Mm-hmm. So some of the mesocycles I'm pushing back really hard. Some of them I'm pushing more chest.
Yeah.
Personally, my chest is pretty good compared to the rest of my body.
So you'd say more focused on back then?
Yeah. And also arms too.
Yeah.
Like arms are definitely something that my physique struggles the most with, I'd say. So throughout the whole time, even if I'm focusing on back one mesocycle, I'm still going to be pushing like triceps really fucking hard.
Yeah.
And seeing how much I can progress those.
You can kind of just push those two alive, especially if you're like accustomed to like higher volume with them. Like they kind of recover quick. And for me, at least, I never find like pushing volume on arms really high never really like hinders like my progression and other shit. So
like, dude, like shoulders are a good example of that. Like I feel like you could do fucking like an 8-hour shoulder workout and be fine in like 2 days.
Yeah. Well, do you ever like, it's like the acute like soreness and like stiffness from a shoulder workout sometimes is unreal. Like sometimes I'll do a shoulder workout and like I can't fucking touch my shoulders.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking like, damn, I'm gonna be sore for like days, and then I wake up tomorrow and it's like, did I work shoulders tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I didn't. Well, I did, but it feels like I didn't. But it's just they just recover so quick.
Dude, actually, something funny to talk about on that is when I was training with Mike in St. Louis.
Yeah.
He had me do this lateral raise machine that was at Fit City.
Yeah.
And we did the lateral raise machine. I'm pretty sure we did 1 drop set to a lower weight on the actual machine. So at that point, I was already doing like almost no weight.
Yeah.
And then like after that machine, we did like a drop set after that. So like pretty much no rest between this.
Yeah.
And then I was just doing straight up no weight at all, just doing lateral raises like that. And I like it literally felt like there was weight pushing down on my hands, and it was just super hard. And like that's one of those workouts I would have expected to be like super sore from in my shoulders, but
then you just recover.
The next day I was fine again. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, especially when food's high, you know, and sleep's good and stuff. It's just like
right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but
definitely some interesting stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be keeping bicep, tricep, shoulder volume all pretty high throughout this entire massing phase because I don't really need to push legs that hard right now, at least.
Yeah.
I need to catch up the rest of my body so I don't look like some sort of fucking tree trunk stick figure.
Hey, I think we both have that problem though, which I think is a good problem. I'd rather have a lower body dominant physique, in my opinion, just because lower body speaks so much more.
Yeah, then just look like a Johnny Bravo or something.
Yeah, or like a Shulk or whatever that dude's name is. That doesn't he doesn't? Call him out. Yeah, call him out. Doesn't train legs. Like, come on, dude. That's what his theory.
Straight pussy shit.
Yeah, that is pussy shit. His theory is that getting my upper body bigger is gonna like hypertrophy my legs because I'm carrying around more weight in my upper body. Like that's
is
like
that actually his logic?
Yeah, that's his logic. That's like saying fucking doing. I don't even know.
Well, the GOMAD diet has you doing like a gallon of milk a day, of course, but then like doing squats. But they also say that's going to grow your upper body.
Really?
Like that completely violates all principles of specificity.
Yeah. That's just stupid bro logic that we do. Yeah. That's just like that's bro science that shouldn't just not even exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So Shulk's definitely a pussy for not training legs.
Calling him out.
Calling him out.
But also, just to get back on track, we were talking about here.
Yeah.
As far as body weight's been going for me, I'm currently 176 in the AM. That's like my moving average.
How much is that up from your lowest?
Lowest? Well, like I started. Well, actually, pretty much back at the end of vacation, I was like 173 still. But I kind of gained a decent bit of weight in the first week, and that was just probably a lot of glycogen and shit. Because, instead of like sitting around on vacation and drinking wine, I was kind of back on the grind and, eating some actual good food and training again. So,
back on the schedule.
Yeah, definitely not a bad thing that I gained more than a pound a week or something during that period of time. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to touch on as far as my training goes. It's going pretty fucking well.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good massing phase, just a couple good mesocycles of just hard training and some conventional deadlifts coming back into play maybe.
Yeah, that's actually something we should talk about.
We could talk about it.
We could touch on that. So
yeah,
Shay and I are both going to be keeping conventional deadlifts
I don't even have
putting them in.
Yeah, which I'm really excited for, just to lift some heavy weight again, because I've never really had a really I was telling Max the most I've ever pulled on conventional is like 405, which is kind of feel embarrassed to say that. Dude, so I'm thinking if I could, I don't know how much I can add, but if I could add some good weight, and I was telling Max when I do my RDLs, my lats are just firing like crazy. So if I can if I can increase my fucking conventional by a lot, something's got to happen back there, Yeah. So that's my theory,
dude. And whenever you do dumbbell stiff leg deadlifts, your erectors are so freaking
it looks like I have a hunchback, and I just pull my shirt up and it's like my fucking erectors. I don't know.
Yeah. So honestly, I would doubt that you could pull some crazy shit.
Well, we'll see. It'll be fun.
But not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty experienced with the deadlift game as far as sumo deadlift goes.
Well, we were watching some of those videos before we started this, and
that
shit got me motivated too. Seeing you pull that, what was that, that 5
525 for 2.
Yeah,
that was probably my best set.
That was sweet, dude. Like I was like, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah, I pulled 545 before, but that was on a deadlift bar and also on DMAA and
fucking just zooted.
Yes, that was a time with Sawyer and Liam and Dom in Minnesota.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it was a good time, but yeah, we're also planning on doing a little strength phase over Christmas. Yeah. So come that time, you might see some crazy weights getting pulled.
I get to learn a lot from Matt's. His old powerlifting side's gonna come on.
Indeed.
It's gonna be a good time to learn some cool shit from him. So.
Yep. Both get some good belts going. And,
yeah.
Yep. Should be fun, and then we'll both be probably 190 by then.
Maybe more.
You better be, dude.
I'm already 182, and I'm like. I'm liking how I'm looking at 182, so I don't know why I couldn't push another 8 pounds by then.
So maybe, when I'm like 200, you'll be like 210. So,
dude, if I'm 210, I don't know.
That'd be
unreal. I just keep out thinking about that.
That'd be unreal, dude.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
That'd be very exciting.
If I can get to 210 in a healthy manner, I'm down for it. But if I'm just a fat piece of shit at 210, I don't want to be 210.
Dude, I just doubt that's gonna happen. Become a fat piece of shit. Well, I mean, it's possible.
It's possible. I'll definitely get a little. We'll definitely be a little fluffy, but hey.
But it'll be straight mass getting put on. Dude, just sheer mass.
Dude, next summer we're gonna look like we're gonna be on the Natty or Not pages.
Yeah,
literally.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, should we get into our topic?
Indeed. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about deloads this podcast. There's a lot to talk about as far as deloading goes. Some people don't even deload.
No. 14 weeks.
Yeah, 14 weeks.
Straight, hard training.
Or since we called out Shulk earlier in this episode, I'm going to call Lex Little.
Ooh.
Because he, early on in his training, I'm pretty sure, back, I've watched his videos for a while, and kind of back when he was training at, I don't remember the actual gym name, but he had said that he had never deloaded, and at that point he'd already squatted 455 or 500 or some shit. He was really strong already, but he had never deloaded.
People don't deload. I honestly believe that your body just naturally deloads.
It does it for you.
Yeah, you just you're gonna have that week where you feel like shit and you just don't work as hard, and that's your deload.
Yeah,
much.
and don't progress. Yeah. But that's just because you've already ran your body into the ground, and it's just fucking just going on the ground.
So if that happens, that's why we should just know when to take a deload, signs of a deload, and just do a deload, because then you can have such a better rebound effect with your next mesocycle.
And you don't have to run yourself into the ground, because if you do that, you might get hurt, and then that could set you back a long time, months, years.
Yeah.
Lifetime.
Yeah, injury could happen.
Literally.
Then you're out of the game for good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So what is a deload pretty much? What's the main purpose of a deload?
Yep. So a deload is usually, they're usually pre-planned. They can also be autoregulated.
Yeah.
That kind of goes hand in hand. But the whole purpose of a deload is to drop accumulated fatigue that you get over the course of a mesocycle. Mm-hmm. So you're just training harder and harder, using more volume, getting higher in intensity, and what comes up must come down.
Exactly.
So you kind of have to dial things back. It's also the same thing with nutrition too.
Yeah.
You can't just constantly be in a surplus, because one, your body becomes less efficient at utilizing the nutrients, and also just you get fat.
Yeah, the whole P ratio topic.
Yeah, P ratios, you feel like shit, and you just need to do the opposite for a little while.
Yeah.
So, it's a way to drop accumulating fatigue. Pretty much everybody does it. Yeah. And it's a very
effective way of continuing progression within your training. Yeah. So, so Max mentioned pre-planned deloads and auto-regulated deloads. So I think some people like to pre-plan their deload, so maybe I think maybe for more experienced people, every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks, just taking a deload. If you're really big. Yeah, if you're really big, every 4 weeks, some people deload where they just take a week off, and we'll explain what that week off looks like. But so what I was saying is a pre-planned deload is every 4 weeks, no matter what. I'm just gonna rest my body.
Well, it could also be between a certain amount of time, so it could be every 6 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, it could be. It could, depending on what your body likes. But me and you do more auto. I would say we're kind of we know when our bodies need a deload, how long we can usually go for. But it's more auto-regulated. Like it might be 5 weeks or it might be 6 weeks for me personally.
Mm-hmm. And also what we mean by auto-regulated is like using different like indicators, like body indicators to know how fatigued we are at different times, how much progress we're making in the gym. We're going to get into all the different signs that you might need a deload, but auto-regulated just means that you kind of listen to your body a little bit more than just going straight off programming.
Exactly, yeah. So, which I think there's, to me, I think in the intermediate stages of lifting, like when you're not super strong yet and stuff, like maybe doing more auto-regulated deloads is probably better, because like if you can like push another week and get good gains and you can recover good and stuff, like I don't see a reason why not to.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're not like driving yourself into the ground. Like this week I was like kind of like maybe I'll deload next week, but then like everything kind of came around and I recovered good. Like I was telling you before, like I did, like my hamstring volume got kind of high my last session, and like dude, my hamstrings were fucking sore for like 2 days, and then like today I woke up and they like weren't sore at all. So I'm like, oh, I can push a little harder next week. Yeah. Yeah, sus, right? Yeah, no, man.
Pounding the test.
Yeah, right. No, but yeah. So I'm thinking like, all right, well I recovered, so like, and like I still have another day before my next hamstring training. So like next week I'm gonna add a little more volume, just totally fucking kill myself in the gym, and I'm gonna need a deload. Like there's no way I'm gonna be able to recover properly to keep pushing. So
yeah. Also, one thing I want to touch on is like it's the differences you make between like training for longer versus like deloading earlier or something like that. Like it matters, but I feel like it matters not a ton in the long run, because when you deload, you also bring down your MEV, you bring down your MRV, and you're just super more like way more sensitive to training, way more sensitive to a surplus again. And just a lot of things improve with the deload besides just losing fatigue. So like I feel like your training will be a lot more effective too afterwards.
Yeah.
So even though like it's a week where you're not progressing, you're gonna have that week anyways. And like for some people, deloading earlier and starting training up after that would be more beneficial for them, while for others, training for longer and then just deloading a little bit later would also work.
Yeah, I think it comes back to like how hard you train within your mesocycle too, because like some people maybe like the higher volume guys, like where volume just gets really high, like you might have to deload quicker just because usually volume accumulates more fatigue. You know, but maybe like the lower volume guys that are just moving heavier weights and shit, like maybe they can push it a little longer within a mesocycle just because the volume isn't as high, and their fatigue does accumulate over time, but just slower.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure a lot of the, like Nick Law, for example, doesn't he like deload every like 8 weeks or some shit?
Yeah, I think so, and like that,
or even longer than that.
I was listening to, because I know Luke Miller is the host of the No Switching, and I think, or he was on John Jewett's podcast too.
Okay.
It was one, but he was talking about how it's like every 6 to 7 weeks for himself or something, which is a little longer. And like those guys, I feel like are.
But I feel like they don't fuck with volume quite as much.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they're lower volume guys, I think.
Yeah, right. And I feel like it definitely depends on that. That's something we touched on in the last episode. So if you haven't seen that episode,
definitely check it out.
Exactly,
it's a great one.
Exactly. Do you want to go over some of the signs that you might need a deload?
Yeah. Do you want to get into them, or should I get into them?
You can get into them to start.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of list them off, and then we kind of can touch on each one a little bit. So.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, so one thing, obviously, is your progression with your lifts starts to slow down or go backwards. So, obviously, like, if you last week you benched 100 pounds for 10 reps, and then this week you benched 100 pounds for 9 reps, like, if you're going backwards and not progressing, like that's usually a great sign that you need a deload, because like obviously you want to be progressing.
Something just to add to that is I also feel like there needs to be like 2 or at least 2 workouts where you experience the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it's just 1 week, you might have had an off day. Exactly. So like Max said, that really good point is like you should have like 2 weeks of like data kind of. You know what I mean? Like.
Or at least just multiple sessions in a row where you're just feeling super run down.
Because sometimes
it's not just one muscle group.
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes you're just overall your CNS is just fucking fried. Where like everything just kind of starts tanking. Yeah. So like that's a great sign. another thing is your sleep. So sleep is kind of really overlooked. So like if your sleep starts going
And it
to
should
shit,
not be.
yeah, like if you can't fall asleep, if you're waking up here like a bunch throughout the night, and
If you're sleeping 6 hours a night.
yeah, if you're sleeping 6 hours a night, which unfortunately
Oh yeah, you do.
I currently do, but I really don't have an option right now.
Yeah,
but,
right.
I'm trying to get the.
But your sleep quality's high.
My sleep quality is high. I have a very good nighttime routine.
Yeah.
So
and a lot of people that sleep 6 hours don't.
Yeah, a lot of people that don't.
I'd honestly say like in actual extreme it'd be like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like some people can survive off 6.
Yeah, six. I don't like that. I get 6.5 to be exact.
Okay.
It's that half hour that really makes a difference.
Right.
But yeah. So if your sleep starts going to shit, like you can't fall asleep, you're waking up a bunch throughout the night. Like even when you wake up, if you feel super like lethargic still, and like you're like when like that's another thing that I know the sleep I'm getting is quality, because like when I wake up, like when my alarm goes off, I'm up, I'm out of bed instantly, like 5:30.
Really?
Yeah, dude, like it's crazy. Like every morning my alarm goes off, like I literally get out of bed like in 2 seconds, and I'm like ready.
Damn.
Energy's high, like it's crazy. So like I might be not like, that's kind of a good sign that like my sleep's good. But like if you're waking up and like it takes you fucking like, not literally, but like I just feel like if it maybe takes you longer, not even
a few snoozes or something.
Not even that. Like I think that's fine, but like even like say like 2 hours after you've after you've gotten out of bed, if you still are tired and like not going yet, like pistons aren't firing, that's kind of a sign that maybe your sleep quality is not good, I think.
For sure.
So
just to go off on a bit of a tangent, just kind of talk about your sleep. Do you use your phone as an alarm?
I do, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And when do you get to work?
I get to work at 6.
Okay.
And I wake up at 5:30.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like, yeah, because personally, sometimes most of the time I like snooze it at least once or twice.
Yeah, I don't really have the option to snooze it. Otherwise I'm gonna be late for work.
I do. And I feel like that's kind of what fucks me up, dude.
So, yeah, and that's another thing too. Like something for me, like in the morning when I wake up, I have a morning routine too before I go to work. And like I'm addicted to like having a routine. So if like I don't do that routine, I kind of get like pissed off at myself. Sure. So that's another thing that helps me get out of bed.
I feel like that's what I need to get better at.
Yeah, so like in the morning, like I have like some things I'll journal, and then like obviously like I'll kind of like weigh myself and some other crap, like use the bathroom and
piss and shit.
Yeah, piss and shit. Yeah, so like having stuff like that kind of helps me get out of bed, but I don't really think I don't know if that's gonna help your deload or not, but yeah, maybe that's why I get out of bed so quick. But
but sleep is definitely super important, and this is something that I've actually told a lot of my clients. Now that I think about it, is sleep is one of those things that are very slept on, but true.
Yeah.
But I mean, like it just really shouldn't be something like that, because like even. Like, you just really can't get around it, because...
No, dude.
Like, you can't sleep 4 hours and expect that you'll still be fine just if you're eating enough calories.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
There's a point where sleep just...
Or enough caffeine.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing. If you're just pounding caffeine, like, you're just sending... Like, that's like the cortisol you get from, like, caffeine and shit to, like, throughout the day and stuff. It's just... I don't know. Sleep is so important. Just
get your sleep.
Just trust us, yeah. Get your sleep.
Just trust
and if
us.
your sleep is noticeably starting to get worse and worse over a couple of days or over the week, that's a good sign that you might need to take a deload. Some other things too that might be signs are appetite decreases. So like I don't know about you, but sometimes for me, and I've heard other people say this too, like when your fatigue gets so high and like after hard workouts, like usually after hard workouts your appetite is lower, but like where you just never want to eat, like you kind of
don't get hungry at all.
You don't get hungry at all. It's kind of like, I don't know, like this might be an anecdote, but like it's kind of a sign that your body's not really utilizing what you're giving it in the right way. So you're kind of just like not hungry. You're just kind of piling food on food on food. And like if that kind of makes sense, I don't know.
I think it does.
You know what I mean though?
Yeah.
So yeah, like if your appetite starts to like literally go away, could be a sign. Energy throughout the day. So just feeling like shit all day long. It's probably a good sign.
It's probably a good sign.
It's probably a good sign.
You need to back off on something, man.
Yeah.
So that kind of just like means like I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Just your energy's crashed throughout the entire day. Like, let's say you wake up, you have your morning coffee, you feel no different afterwards. You have your meals, you don't really feel any energy from them at all. But that also could have to do with a bunch of other things. But it's also a really good marker for when to deload.
Yeah, because like if you have your meals and your coffee, shit that usually makes you feel good and stuff, and you just still feel like crap after. Like even if you're getting good sleep, like you might be getting good sleep, but if your energy throughout the day sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing we should touch too is like you don't have to experience all of these. Like it might be one. Like one might stand out more than the other. So yeah, just kind of pay attention to all those things.
But like the more you experience, the more for sure you can be on when to take a deload. These are more like signs that you need a deload. If you're using like a more autoregulated method.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I would say like if you only have one of these symptoms like occurring, you probably don't need a deload. It might just be like an off week. But if you have like I would say at least if you have two of these things happening simultaneously, probably a good indicator that that's when your body needs a deload.
And I also feel like there's kind of different tiers to it. So like if your progression is regressing over multiple workouts, but your sleep is still good, your appetite's still good, and shit like that, like that's still like kind of a sign that you should deload anyways.
That's good that you said that because that's exactly where I'm at right now. Like, well, I shouldn't like my lifts aren't regressing, but they're definitely really slowing down, and like my overall energy is good, my sleep's good, but my lifts are just starting to slow down. So it's like, why keep pounding myself when like if I can keep my energy high and my sleep good, and then deload and keep all that shit good, it's like a win-win.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But I'm not going to keep trying to kill myself in the gym if I'm not going anywhere, so I'll just take a nice deload.
So the next point we have is like the ability to recover decreases. So like in Shay's case, like his recovery is still pretty decent, but because like volume and intensity increase over the time throughout the mesocycle, training is going to get harder. And let's say if he kept going for another week, and like his lifts are already suffering, like if he went up in volume again, like at that point, like ability to recover would be probably decreased at that point, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like I don't want to do 5 sets of RDLs.
Yeah.
Like, I will literally not have hamstrings.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So like in that case, it's probably good to deload before that happens.
Right. Yeah.
You know? So you're not like being sore and then being sore again for the next workout in the same muscle group. Like that's kind of what you definitely want to
avoid. You want to be recovering session to session.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really think we need to cover that next one.
No?
No, because that's a whole topic itself.
Yeah. Right. It's kind of a bit more into the weeds.
Yeah. It's HRV and resting heart rate, but if you track that stuff, just if you're tracking that stuff, you probably know enough about it. So if that shit starts to get out of whack, probably a good sign. I'm not going to explain it.
Well, I feel like you should talk about a little bit about the July 4th incident. Like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so I personally track my HRV and resting heart rate, and
he has a watch.
Yeah, I have a watch. It might not be accurate, but it's consistent, which is what matters. So it gives me a pattern. So over time, like if my resting heart rate starts to significantly go up, that means like my body's under stress and whatnot. And I'm not going to get into the details, but it's a sign that your body's under stress. And if your heart rate variability starts to decrease, that's another sign that it pretty much means your heart is less responsive to stress on the body. So, which is not a good thing. You want your heart to be responsive to stresses. So if your heart rate variability drops, that's usually not good. But anyways, yeah, over the 4th of July, I had some fun.
As anyone would.
Yeah. And my heart rate variability usually sits around like 120, 128, which that's kind of my normal range, which is pretty good. And those 2 nights I had some fun, staying up late, just doing shit that I usually don't do, that I used to do a lot. But my heart rate variability literally crashed, like went down to like something that I probably should be dead at. Within a night. And then my resting heart rate went from like 42 to like 50 overnight. Just shot up. So like,
and compared to the rest of his data too, it's outliers.
It's completely outlier. So on that, like,
Shay's like half dead with like a 45 average heart rate. So
so it's just like there's something to be said there that it's kind of off topic of our topic today, but if you want to be making optimal gains, you shouldn't be drinking every single night. Moral of the story.
All right, guys. So next thing we're going to talk about here is how to deload. So, fuck.
You just totally called me out. My dyslexic ass.
All right. So basically, when you're trying to deload, there's kind of two ways of going about it. The first way is kind of like what I usually do. So the first half of your week is like you keep the load the same as what you're doing in the previous week. So that's also like the week where you're training the hardest. So your loads are going to be the highest they've ever been throughout that mesocycle, most likely. But you cut volume because volume's a very big driver of fatigue, along with intensity, of course. But then the second week, you cut the load.
Second half of the week.
Yeah, the second half of the week, right? You also cut the load in along with the volume that you already cut. So basically, like it's kind of just like 2 steps down as far as training goes. Like first you cut the volume, next you cut the load, and then so you're already kind of at the start of the week. You're already like training.
Half of the week prior.
Half the week prior. Fuck, I totally messed that up.
Oh, you're good.
But yeah, you basically just take 2 steps down, and then by the end of the week, you're keeping volume super low. You're keeping load super low. You're basically just half-assing it all the time in the gym. Yeah. But that's exactly what you need in order to continue making good progress. So.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks knowing you have a deload coming up because it's like, oh fuck, like pussy shit. But like, dude, when you're taking that deload, you realize like, dang, like I needed this, and like honestly, like sometimes during the deload, I'm just like, I wish I could train like this all the time. It's just so nice sometimes.
Dude, imagine if you just build optimal amounts of muscle, just half-ass it.
Yeah, dude. I know. It's just like, honestly, too, deloads are a great time to really just practice, too, in my opinion. Yeah, like technique. Like just really, like you don't have to look at a deload as a waste of time. Well, it's not a waste of time because you're dropping fatigue and priming your body for your next mesocycle. But, like, you can definitely, like, I always use, like, if I have, like, high bar squats or something in there, like, with load and volume super low, I just really focus on, like, kind of tweaking
slow eccentrics.
Yeah, just tweaking my form and getting good at the movement, you know?
Yeah, that's the nice thing about, like, actually training during a deload. Like, there's other ways of deloading, like, just taking a week off or something, which I personally wouldn't recommend because the whole reason that you deload and not just do nothing... Like, doing nothing would probably drop a lot of fatigue, but the whole purpose of doing a deload, too, is still being able to have your preparedness up at some point.
Yeah.
And not just completely just getting rid of all the movements and just not doing anything for a week, just sitting on the couch eating chips and watching TV.
Yeah, because I think just sitting on the couch doing that is less conducive to recovery than actually, moving and getting good blood flow and stuff.
For sure. And then also imagine just coming back to a mass phase after taking a week off and doing nothing at all.
You'd be freaking dead after. Yeah. You'd need a deload the next week, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that's the first way of deloading. Shay, do you want to talk about the second one?
Yeah, so the second one, so that's the one that Max, that was how you recently did your deload, right?
The first one.
Yeah, so that's how Max recently did his. And the second way is how I recently did mine. And it was okay, but I would recommend the way Max just explained. But so the second way is the first half of the week, you cut the load in half right away. So if you're squatting 100 pounds, you would go down to 50 or 60 pounds, but you keep volume the same. So if you did 4 sets the week prior, you're still doing that 4 sets, but you're doing with half the load. And then the second half of the week, you cut the volume in half. So now the load's cut in half and volume's cut in half. So again, it still has that, it's still a 2-step process. So the first half of the week, you're dropping a good amount of fatigue. And then the second half of the week, you just really drop fatigue because the load and the volume both is literally cut in half.
I do feel like there are some positives to that.
Yeah, I think some positives are just like you maybe, I don't really know though. Like there's positives to both, but I think the positives to keeping the load high the first half of the week is better in my opinion.
Yeah, because that, like I was saying before, it keeps your preparedness where it's at.
Yeah, and exactly, like neurologically.
Right.
And like you said too, before we started the podcast, is one of the main drivers of fatigue is volume. So like, wouldn't it make more sense to cut volume before load?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what we touched on last podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think I'm really excited for my deload coming up because I'm gonna try the first one that you explained, and yeah. So
But like either way, both of them are both methods of
you're both pretty much training like a pussy, so you're gonna drop fatigue.
Exactly. You're basically training like a person on Gymshark train.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're just putting everyone in the fire today.
Putting everyone on blast today.
Oh man, interesting podcast today.
Yeah. So that's how to deload. So then another really common thing people always wonder about when they deload is how to eat during a deload.
Mm-hmm.
So do you can start on that.
Yeah.
Sure.
So first thing I want to talk about is kind of like how a lot of people think they should eat during a deload.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think, like they're in a mass phase, for example, their main goal is to gain weight. And so they basically think that, I should just continue my surplus throughout this deload, even though I'm not training hard.
You're really going to gain weight then.
You're really going to gain weight because you're not, providing a stimulus to gain any significant amount of muscle. So basically you're just more or less sitting on your ass and just improving or just keeping preparedness where it's at.
Well, we put our bodies in a surplus for a reason while we're training. So like if you don't have that stimulus and you're in a surplus, you're kind of just eating in a surplus for no reason.
Yeah.
At that point. And like you don't need a surplus to recover. You just kind of need maintenance.
Yeah.
So
right. And then the other, I feel like this is an even better example where people are in like a cutting phase, and like we were talking about earlier, the whole point of a deload is to drop accumulated fatigue.
Yep.
And if you're in a deficit, if you're in a cutting phase, and you think that you should be in a deficit throughout your deload where you're trying to drop accumulated fatigue, that just doesn't make any sense because
like how is you're not feeling your body, so
right. Yeah, like you're staying in a deficit, you're staying below the amount of calories your body needs in order to maintain its weight.
Yeah, that's a stressor on itself.
Exactly. So, you're just continuing the stress throughout that week while you're supposed to be not doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I think the issue around that is like people like get deep into their cut and they start looking good and they're afraid to fucking move. They're afraid to move their food at all.
Oh, for sure.
But like people, it's maintenance. Like just spell it out, maintenance. You're gonna maintain what you have. Like
you'll maintain your lean tissue.
You're not gonna gain weight. And honestly, sometimes like I know for me, every time I come out of a cut and I bump food up, I end up losing more weight just because like you have more energy and you're moving more and shit. Yeah. So like, don't be afraid to bump your calories up to maintenance during a cut.
Yeah,
even slightly above. Honestly, slightly. Well, depends what your goal is and like the time frame of what you're going for, but
yeah. So after we talked about that, we were gonna talk about how to actually eat during a deload, and we both recommend to eat at maintenance because the whole point is to drop accumulated fatigue, and it's kind of nice to also like whether you're in a surplus or a deficit to
just not either pound food or get a little break from
just stop pushing either way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
just kind of relax and maybe train less during that week, and
maybe sometimes deloads like kind of. Max just recently had this too. Like, if you can, like, maybe plan your deload when you have a vacation or something. Do like an active rest, where like again, like maybe you won't be training at all, but like, and it's not you'll be fine. And sometimes you come back and you respond super well, and it's just like that's when you realize that hey, like that deload, I should start taking those more. And it took me a while to realize that. I had a couple mesocycles. I wouldn't even consider them mesocycles. Where I just killed myself for weeks straight and finally would deload, and just they're so worth it. And if you're training hard enough and if you're truly training hard enough, you'll need a deload.
Or your body will do it for you.
Yeah, or your body will do it for you and you'll just be that fucking badass that never deloads.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
yeah. I haven't deloaded since I was 13.
Right, yeah. That's just not the case.
Yeah. Right.
Your body will naturally do it. So why not just do it yourself and make the best out of it?
Exactly. Yeah. Also, something I wanted to touch on too was just besides the physiological benefits of doing a deload and also eating at maintenance, the psychological benefits you have are crazy.
Yeah.
And also doing an active rest too, just because we were talking about
Do you mean like kind of like I don't know why we didn't cover this, but like another sign that you might need a deload is just your motivation to train. Like you just don't want to train. Is that kind of what you mean psychologically?
Totally.
Like kind of like I'm always super excited to train like after a deload, and that usually lasts for like 6 weeks. And it's just like,
Yeah.
not that I don't want to train. It's just kind of like,
Yeah.
it's getting
It's basically every
starting
time
to grind that shit real hard.
It's basically every time you get to the gym, all you want to do is like rip your ears off and gouge out your eyes. That's pretty much what you feel too.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. Loss of motivation to train is definitely
a good sign.
Great sign.
It's a great sign. I don't know why we didn't cover that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we were really more focused on the I'd say more focused on the physiological aspect.
Yeah. But yeah, your desire to train, if that plummets,
then it's either that you don't like what you're doing. You're just beta. You don't like what you're doing, or
if there's weeks you don't want to train, like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah,
like, you should just always want to train. No, but seriously, it happens to all of us. And if your desire of training really plummets, then yeah, that's a great sign actually that you need a break.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually happens to me quite often. So
yeah.
That deload always resparks that fire.
Oh yeah, for sure. So. Yeah, and then on that deload, like you you're training just so half-assed, and then you go on Instagram and see all these people just destroying shit and
it just pumps. Fires you up. Yeah,
right. Right.
Yeah. But I think that's all pretty much for a deload.
Well, actually, one more thing.
Oh, is there one more thing?
We did want to touch on eating in a smaller like surplus towards the end of your deload.
Yeah.
So basically, like we said, you have to eat at maintenance during your deload in order to actually drop that fatigue and not just continue stressing your body.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, let's say, like 1 or 2 days before your next actual mesocycle, especially if you're in a surplus, like I'd say this would only apply to when you're in a surplus.
Yeah, because it wouldn't make sense to cut your calories. In a deload. Yeah.
So, like, if you're in a mass phase and you're deloading, you keep maintenance for at least the first like 5 days, I'd say.
Yep.
Then like in the last day or two of your deload, it might be smart to start bumping up your food a little bit to replenish your glycogen stores.
And really drop fatigue.
Too.
And that might be where it might be beneficial in a deficit if you're in a fat loss phase. Because like 1 to 2 days of maybe eating above maintenance calories.
Like slightly
above is going to be maybe like a little refeed.
Yeah.
Like two refeed days or something. Nothing crazy. Don't get out of hand.
Don't go ahead and just slam loads of bread or something.
But especially during a deficit, like maybe 2 days of feeding up a little bit might really drop fatigue and might make your next mesocycle of cutting or cutting phase really successful.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Glad you remembered that.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about as far as deloads go.
Yeah, I think that's everything. So thank you guys for listening into another episode of the Meathead University. We'll see you guys next time for episode 5.